Hello. Today, let us discuss the cessation of suffering through the teachings of Buddhism. The cessation of suffering is a sacred journey, an inward voyage to discover liberation from all attachments and pain in life. It is a part of the Four Noble Truths, the profound teachings expounded by the Buddha over 2,000 years ago. When we speak of the cessation of suffering, we are not merely referring to the end of physical or mental pain, but to the cessation of everything that causes us suffering. This is Nirvana, a state of calm and serenity, unshaken by the desires, aversions, and ignorance of daily life. To comprehend Nirvana, we must first deeply understand suffering. Life is rife with dissatisfaction, the pain of loss, resentment, envy, and unfulfilled cravings. These are manifestations of suffering, born from attachment, ego, and desire. Suffering is not a random state but a direct consequence of what we hold onto in our minds and hearts. The tighter we cling to fleeting things and yearn for a possession, the more we suffer. Thus, understanding the roots of suffering is the first step toward liberation. The cessation of suffering, also known as Nirvana, teaches us that suffering can end. When we let go of attachments, release our grasp, and cease clinging to our desires, the mind is freed. This is the state of Nirvana, a pure realm that the Buddha realized, where the pains of worldly existence no longer affect us. Yet, Nirvana is not a distant place to be found outside, it is a mental state of enlightenment and peace, where one is no longer governed by desire, hatred, or delusion. The journey to the cessation of suffering is through practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, the path the Buddha outlined to help us escape the cycle of birth and death. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a rigid set of rules but a guide for living rightly, with a tranquil and wholesome mind. First is right view, understanding the Four Noble Truths and the nature of life and suffering. With clear insight, we are no longer lost in delusion or deceived by worldly illusions. Right intention involves cultivating thoughts of kindness and compassion. Instead of allowing our minds to be dominated by negativity, we must learn to think with empathy and benevolence. Right speech involves speaking truthfully, avoiding lies and words that harm others. Words have the power to bring joy or cause pain, so we must learn to speak with care, honesty, and kindness. Right action entails living virtuously, refraining from harm to all beings. Right livelihood means earning a living in a way that does not harm others or the environment. By practicing right action and right livelihood, we move closer to a harmonious life that respects all beings and the world around us. Right effort is the perseverance to develop virtue and wisdom, while right mindfulness is the practice of being fully present, free from distractions of the past or future. Finally, right concentration is a meditative state that brings inner peace. The practice of Nirvana is not confined to meditation halls or tranquil retreats, it can be applied in daily life. Every time we let go of something, every time we refuse to be dominated by desires or resentments, we move a step closer to Nirvana. When we realize that happiness does not depend on possessions or achievements but arises from inner peace, life becomes lighter. Cessation of suffering brings clarity of mind and tranquility of heart. Freed from worldly anxieties and desires, the liberated soul experiences unshakable happiness, a state that nothing can disturb. This is the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey, a sincere aspiration for all of us to pursue. The journey to the cessation of suffering is one of self-awakening, compassion, forgiveness, and letting go. As we walk this path, we not only liberate ourselves but also bring peace to those around us. Practice and apply the Buddha's teachings in your daily life, and step by step, approach Nirvana, a state where all suffering ends and true happiness begins. As you listen to these words, imagine a clear stream gently flowing, each droplet a prayer from the depths of the soul. Hear the soft breeze whisper by, a reminder of the serenity that comes when the soul is liberated. This is the sound of peace, of bliss, a feeling that we can only experience when our hearts are free from suffering. Remember, Nirvana is not a distant destination but a state of inner stillness. When we let go and embrace compassion and kindness, we touch Nirvana in this very life. Think of a rainy day, sitting at home, listening to the drops fall on the roof. Rain often evokes memories and past sorrows. Each drop feels like a trace of pain or a scar of the past. Instead of avoiding or denying these emotions, we can learn to let go and be still with the rain. Let the stream of feelings flow as water flows, without clinging or resistance. This is a small step toward the cessation of suffering, releasing the past without holding on. When you face someone you have conflicts with, it's easy to let anger or envy take over your mind. But instead of letting anger control you, try looking at that person with compassion, understanding that they, too, carry their burdens. Letting go of anger and resentment brings us closer to the cessation of suffering. Forgiveness and tolerance free us from pain. Some spend their lives chasing recognition, striving for societal admiration. They sacrifice everything for higher status or greater power, only to find emptiness and unrest when they reach the top. Clinging to success and fame does not lead to true happiness. But when they dare to let go and embrace simplicity, they begin to feel inner peace. In times of loss, such as losing a loved one, the cessation of suffering does not mean the absence of emotion but learning to accept and let go. Grieving is natural, but holding on to pain forever only deepens suffering. Understanding life's impermanence helps us release attachment to loss, allowing us to cherish beautiful memories without being weighed down by them. When striving for perfection, we often feel frustrated and stressed when things don't go as planned. But by accepting life's imperfections and understanding that we cannot control everything, we find relief. This acceptance is part of the cessation of suffering, learning to live in harmony with life's unpredictability. Finally, consider the intense longing for something, a beautiful item, a better job, or an ideal relationship. Desires are natural, but if they control us, they lead to suffering. When we don't achieve what we want, disappointment follows. By embracing gratitude and contentment, we experience a fuller, more meaningful life. Cessation of suffering is not about abandoning joy or emotions but about freeing the mind from negative emotions and attachments. Each moment we become aware and let go, no matter how small, we step closer to Nirvana and inner peace. The journey to the cessation of suffering is one of letting go of material attachments, ambitions, and even grievances and sorrows. When we let go, we not only free ourselves but also bring peace to those around us. Nirvana is not a faraway place but the serenity within whenever we embrace compassion and mindfulness. Let go of today's weariness. Take a moment to listen to your breath, the melody of peace. Whether seated or lying down comfortably, relax with us as we extend to you unconditional love.